just talk like the whole time. Hey there, it's Raj and Fede doing our one-on-one. Usually this is our time for demo, but we're gonna push demo to Monday. How you doing, Fede?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Do you see we have a beta tester
Yeah, I
helping?
was reading that.
Yeah, so yeah, excited about that. She's pretty on top of things. I made like a beta testing document that I shared with you. If you have any other stuff that we should put on there for people to test out.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to read, but yeah, I will take a look later.
you just need to look at the section of getting started. That's one that details what they should be doing. So, like in terms of functionality, I could think of we do summarization, ask any kind of question. We'll have smart search very soon, I think, at least the alpha version. It's like the people that upgrade to enterprise can try the alpha stuff out and get feedback. Um, so the one thing that did just come up was, we have our beta tester in a Slack Connect channel, right? So it's outside people. Now, she tagged Haley asking like, "What is testing, Haley?" And then she didn't get a response.
Yeah, I
Um,
was seeing that.
uh, it'd be great if she could ask Haley and whatever, but at the same time, we have to think about like what. Let's say you have smart search, an outside person shouldn't be looking through all your
Right.
organization's stuff. So we need to be careful that they can only search within the places that they're in, right? Only the
Yeah, I
things.
don't think that's worth like putting effort there. It's not
Yeah,
the. I don't think it's a use case that we need to care about right now. It's
but
going to be like too much work, and I don't know if it's worth it.
yeah. So that's just to be a limitation that we have.
Yeah.
Although it'd be nice if we could have a like maybe you don't get smart search, but you can come into we had this before, a demo
Yeah.
channel where people we invite them, they can play around with it, but they don't. We won't expose smart search. So kind of like people have their Discord channel that people can join and report issues and show us live, just for the free and pro tier.
All right. Yeah, I don't
Um,
know how Slack Connect works, but it looks like we need to do something else for the bot to work there.
okay, let's just. I'll create a card. Card for Haley. So I was watching this interview Lex Friedman podcast. Have you heard of this guy? He's a
No.
engineer, but he has a very popular podcast, and he
Oh yeah, I saw an interview with Sam Altman a while ago.
yeah. So he's got, and he comes at it from an engineer mindset, asking questions and stuff, which is cool. And then I was watching the one, my favorite rapper is Kanye. Whether or not you agree with his off the wall stuff
Yeah,
that he says and things that are considered anti-Semitic because he's grouping a bunch of people and saying these people did me wrong, and he's like, oh, they're Jews, and I'm like, dude, just and
stop.
Lex says, I'm like, dude, just call out the individual people. You don't need to group them all and be like, they're all from the U.S., so all Americans are bad because the people that did me wrong were American. Well, you can group them if they have a similarity. You can group them with that
Yeah,
similarity, right? It's just, but for some reason, this doesn't. Kanye doesn't understand that. Like, you're just taking like people. They all have black hair,
yeah,
so these black-haired people are doing me wrong. It's like no. It's like go after the individual, don't go
right.
after a grouping, especially when you make it religious. Like, you're just not doing yourself any favors. So yeah, it's somewhat interesting podcast, and they do get into it where he's like telling him, Lex is telling Kanye, you know do you have people that call you out on your bullshit, and then Kanye gets triggered, and Kanye's
Oh,
like, what bullshit? What are you talking about? Like, I don't. It's pretty
yeah, he
entertaining.
gets defensive. Yeah.
It gets very defensive, and when you get defensive, you lose because you got triggered, right? You get the first one person get mad, loses, right, and then it turns into a shouting match. But I think Lex keeps us cool the whole time. Um, but in the podcast, Kanye's like taking notes and shit. So you're like he's like, oh, let me write that down. And then in the like during the podcast, he's like writing down notes, and I'm like, dude, I didn't
Okay.
watch this podcast. I see you watch
Oh,
taking.
it's 2.5 hours. Is that
Yeah,
the
it's a
one? Oh
long
my god.
form content. The problem with that is that people will pick apart, like Kanye will have very good arguments for certain things.
Yeah, but you
Okay,
get a clip out of
you get the
context and
crazy out of context clips. So, you don't watch the full story. You just watch. He had his interview with Alex Jones, who's off on the fringe in terms of like conspiracy theories and all that. And so like they took all the crazy, like Kanye was joking, doing a bunch of funny stuff, but they just like clipped all the funny stuff together, and they're like, look, he's fucking out of
oh,
his mind, right? He had this joke where he took a Net and a Yahoo, the drink, and he was talking about Netanyahu from Israel or yeah, Israel,
yeah.
and he was doing jokes. So they just, and he was also wearing like a full face cover thing. So I mean, some of the stuff is pretty crazy, but it was all like clipped together. So it's like you see like all these like things he's like sprinkling in, but it's
Yeah.
all clipped together. So it's like, oh, this guy is off his rocker, and to some extent, he is kind of off his rocker. So that was, if you get time to see, you might want to fast forward through his note taking, but some of the other stuff, especially
Okay.
where he gets triggered. He gets like he doesn't take criticism well. Like he'll flip into like a defensive shouting match mode, right? So that
Yeah.
was just like, interesting. I couldn't watch it all. I was just like, I'm not here to watch you take notes. Also, he's super not humble or like modest. He thinks he's top 5 writer of all time. So
Yeah.
he's like, there's Shakespeare, and I'm like, and
And
he's like,
there's
yeah,
me.
think about influence, and I'm like, dude, you just said top
Yeah, I
5.
think like self confidence is good up at like at a certain point you need to stop because it's
Your work speaks for itself. You don't need to
yeah.
boast about it. People will do it for you. You don't need to be on a podcast and talk about how you're great and everything. Um, but his
And
his what is greatest of all time of something is like how much influence. So he was like,
right.
Steve Jobs, one of the greatest of all times, because out of every, I don't know how many iPhones they've sold, but it's in the billion plus, or I think there's a billion plus iPhones on the planet, right? Out of 8 billion, that's big influence, right?
Yeah.
Um, Again, then you could say, well, actually, Android has bigger influence because they have more than Apple, right? So is that Larry or Page or Eric Schmidt or the current CEO of, who's the guy that you're like, oh,
Yeah, I don't know. It's not that popular, I guess. The thing is, Android is like it's like on every other brand that is not iPhone, so it's not like
it's
a fair comparison. Like
it's
Apple
fragmented.
versus I don't know Samsung, Motorola, all those companies. It's like,
Yeah. So
are you buying
it's,
the new iPhone or no? You're on Android, right?
I'm Android. I have a Pixel 7.
Oh, nice.
It's Pixel 7 Pro. But I was considering switching over to Apple and getting. I mean, I have the Mac, right? It's like there's a bunch of stuff that it like
Yeah,
seamlessly integrates with. Um, but I was like, oh, I was looking at the new Pixel Fold, because I was like, oh, if
oh,
I can, as I'm driving in my Tesla and autopilot, I can just flip that sucker open. Because this actually happened to me. I was driving down to visit my niece and nephew in LA, and autopilot. So I'm not paying attention, but I had it. I had it up to like 80 miles an hour, right? But I don't think I was going that fast because there was traffic, so it was not like. But at
Yeah.
some point when I wasn't paying attention, it hit 80, and then I was when I got pulled over, I was on like maybe 70 something, and the cop was like, you know why I pulled you over? And I thought that he was pulling me over because I was on my phone, not paying
Oh.
attention to the, I had my hand on the steering wheel and I'm just like looking at my phone. And he's, oh, you were going 80 in a construction zone, which is like 55.
Oh.
But he was cool about it. And he was like, I'll just write you up for regular speed. Because if you're in a construction zone here and you get tickets like 3x cost to the
Oh.
ticket.
Isn't that like the Tesla supposed like to slow down when it detects like some signs or things like that? Or
No, it knows the speed limit when you're driving
yeah.
through it. So it'll say this is speed limit, but you get to set the
Oh, you can like ignore
you
it.
can set,
Okay.
you used to be able to set it as high as as fast as the car could go. And
Okay.
now the limit is 85. So it doesn't let you autopilot more than 85. Uh, but should I send the ticket over to Elon and be like, look, Elon, you let me go
Yeah.
over the speed limit.
It's a
Should
bug.
you not
It's a bug.
It's a yeah. I should just sue Tesla and be like, you guys paid this ticket because you let me. It should go the speed limit. So I don't want that feature. I want to go lower the speed limit. Um,
I take that back. No.
yeah, yeah. So maybe a cap on the how fast you can go in a certain region. Because if I'm going 80 as my, and I think that's the safe. I think it should be like the Autobahn, no speed limits. You just need to learn to keep slow people on the right and then fast people go, right?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe up to a certain extent. Maybe 120 is a little crazy, right? So
How much is
what is
check?
120 is
20
like
miles.
60 plus.
It's 193.
Okay.
That no. I've never drove that fast.
The fastest I've ever drove, when I was like 16 years old. I just got my license. Okay. And my parents, this is 2000. Uh, the car was a Honda Accord 2000. Not a fast car. It was like a four-cylinder car, pretty much brand new, right? And I was going from my parents' place to my uncle's place. And I'm young. I'm like 16, and
Yeah,
I'm
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 young.
like
I'm stupid.
young and stupid, and I'm like, and I had my cousin with me, so I'm like putting him in danger doing this too. But I was like, let's see how fast this fucker can go. I hit 122 miles per hour,
Oh,
which is whatever that is in
yeah. Almost
kilometers.
200. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that was like, there's no way on a straight path that I could go that fast. It had to go, I went downhill, so I was going faster. And I'm like weaving in and out of the double yellow for the carpool lane, HVAC lane. So I'm going in and out, which is illegal also, right? So I'm just like passing up these cars.
Yeah.
And then finally, like close to where my uncle lives, uh, I get pulled over, right? And I'm freaking out. I'm a young, dumb kid, and my cousin's sitting next to me. And I see my uncle, because he was also going home, drive by, and he sees me pulled over. And
No.
the cop comes up to the window on the right side, and he's like, "What's your rush? Why are you in such a hurry?" And I'm like, "Stupidity, officer." And he's like, "I can't argue with that." So he goes back, writes me the ticket. He could have impounded me. If you're going like 100 plus, you can get impounded.
Oh
Like they
yeah.
can come and
Oh
tow your car, right? So he didn't want to go through the hassle. That's a hassle for the cop, right? To call him a tow, whatever.
yeah.
And he's like 95 plus on the speeding ticket, right? So if you actually put my actual like 122, I think they would
Yeah.
take me in to jail, reckless driving, right? And fast forward a few months later, um, we go to court for the ticket, and it's not like an actual courtroom. It's just like the judge's office, okay? And it's me and my dad sitting there, and the judge is talking about like people die going this fast, and this is like stupid, and I'm like yeah, and he's like this is gonna cost you $450, which is actually like if you got that same ticket now, it'd be like $1,000 plus. And he's like, you have that kind of money. And then I look at my dad and he's like, don't look at him. Do you have that kind of money?
Right.
And I was like, no, I do not. I do not. So now I got the recent speeding ticket, going down to LA. So I can't really speed. So this is the same thing with, remember Yulin from In Touch?
Yeah.
He has a nice Porsche. I don't know what he's driving now because he made so much money off of acquisition of In Touch from Teledoc. But at the time when we were chatting, he drove a white Porsche, right? Really nice car. And he had the same thing as me. He was like, every
I need to
18
test
months
it.
I can't speed because I got a speeding ticket, right? And if you get a speeding ticket and you don't do, if you're over 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, you can't do traffic school. And so if you don't do traffic school, you get a point on your record, your insurance goes up, it's just going to cost you 10,000. It's going to be expensive for you in the long run until that point gets taken off your record. So, I'm within, the guy was nice enough not to put the actual speed limit of 55 because I'm way over and I can't take traffic school. And so now I have to do traffic school, which has gotten harder and harder because before what I would do is I would like go on the traffic school website, I open up another window with the actual stuff, Control F, right? And now they've like made it so you can't do that. Like they'll make you watch videos and they'll be like, what color was the car that turned left?
Oh.
So you're like, oh fuck, I have to pay attention. So
well, that happened to me with those Slack courses. That if you went to another window, it would like block everything. You couldn't like copy paste or take a screenshot or anything.
So I just took my phone out and then I'm over here.
Nice, smart.
I'm still bringing another laptop, my cheating laptop versus this. I don't know. I'm just telling you, like doing tests in the future is just going to be either dead simple for the person, but it's going to be really hard to detect cheating because you'll have, you have your chat GPT to voice thing that you just read it out loud. It'll give you the answer.
Yeah.
It's running in the background. It just reads it to you. It's just going to be, and if you're doing an interview, have chat GPT with a voice prompt, intercept the audio. It figures out who's talking. And then maybe at the bottom, it'll give you like, word by word, the best possible answer.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the future just has to be like in-person interviews. They have to fly you there. They take away your phone, make sure you don't have any earplugs so you can, be like, yeah, that actually
you get that full body scan.
Yeah, they do a full body scan, make sure you don't have any devices on you. So I been messing around with Sweep, where I was trying to wait till we had Sweep. So what Sweep is, sweep.dev is their website. We've been talking with the founders, William and Luke, about helping them do documentation for doing Sweep, like on-prem or on cloud, separate from their stuff. So your code never hits their servers because some people are like, oh no, I don't trust you with my code. So I want it to go to my own server. And that's not a big deal for us, and we're open source. Our code's freely available for everybody to look at with AGPL. So it's like a very restrictive open source license, right? But what I wanted to do was like plug and play different language models outside of GPT-4, which is, I think, the best one so far. But I've also heard that you can fine tune Llama and Llama code to make it even better, right? So what I've been doing, and let me share my screen here, and I'll show you kind of what I'm doing for, we don't have unit test, right? That's like a big problem that we have because we will make changes to the code and I have no idea that they broke whatever, right? So now we're doing this. Let me share. So this is going to be the future, is until AI has the pipes, right? From going from one thing to another, like in this case, going from GitHub's website to my prompt, right? I'm the intermediate. I'm just like I run it here, it does it, I get pull, I take the results, I send it to it, and it says, okay, let me try this. And I just keep doing that until it works. Now, maybe at the very end, it's going to be like, there might be changes that did to the files that didn't clean up. So maybe at the end, I'll be like, hey, can you clean up the mess that you made trying to get to here? So here was so the way that sweep works is you create an issue, right? So I did this one, sweep slow, add a unit testing framework for Flask. It didn't do it the way I wanted at the get-go. It just did like Python test that didn't run, which I can go into why it's not doing that. So then I said, all right, actually do it with Flask test, not unit test from Python. So here I use it. It gives you 4 free tickets for the month, 2 for the day, and if you do the on-prem unlimited, right? So I would love to pay these guys, but if I can do the open source version, because I have time, but I don't necessarily have money to pay their rates. So I have it run. It does the pull request. Then I go and I take the result of me doing Flask test, copy paste it into the issue, right? So you'll see in here on the actual pull request that it created that it's taking my pastings. So here I said, hey, I want test framework so I can run Flask test because that wasn't working. It acknowledges it with emoji.
Yeah, it does that every time. It doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah, I'm off to do whatever you said. Yeah. So then it's just a back and forth. The one thing that it did, it added it's a path problem, right? So Python couldn't find the right path to where to run the stuff. So usually you do like Python path, or you set it in the environment variable. So it added an environment variable, but then it didn't know about the .ignore, so it couldn't check in the code. So then I was like, hey, you're trying to check in a file that's not allowed. So then it went into the get ignore, added. So it's smart enough to figure out like ways around what's the problem. Now, do you have to be kind of knowledgeable about .ignore? Because I could have been like, why didn't I add the file? But I knew, oh, that's an env file. So you still need some knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And I have Python's my main language, so like I understand, and I've used Git enough to do this. But this is going to get smart enough where you're not going to have too much back and forth, right? And there used to be coder monkeys, right? Now it's going to be copy paste monkeys. So they're just copying from here, putting it over here, copying from here, putting it over here. And it's going to be that, because this thing's going to be way faster than you going in there and figuring it out for yourself, right? So whenever people like shit on, oh, well, I didn't get it the first time. Like, dude, this is V1. These guys, they started this company like a few months ago, and they have this great tool, right? So eventually I'll get this to the point where it's working, so I can show you jump share, present, share screen, window. So in here, I got to the point where it was actually running the test. Like, okay, cool. Like, it was able to get to there, and then the tests were failing. And then I was like, okay, this is what I'm getting, fix it, right? And so let's see, it'll be git pull, whatever it did latest. Did it do any change? Yeah, it did some changes, updated your guards file. Still. So I'm just going to copy this and just keep doing that iterative process of being able to set up unit tests. And then I'll be like, all right, now add a bunch of unit tests for all the files, right? And then I'll just keep iterating it until it fixes it. This is like way easier than, knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess it depends. If you really know what you're doing, it's probably faster if you've done it before. Like, you just go and do it. But yeah, if you have like zero experience, it's easier than learning everything and doing it, for sure.
Yeah. So, and then along the ways, you can learn by looking at the pull request and like, oh, they went into this file and then they figured that out. So
Yeah.
um, as soon as we get the on-prem version, which is not really on-prem, it's the on-cloud version, our cloud version, then I'll even hit it harder because I won't use up all our free tickets. And I'm pretty sure if I reached out to the guys and be like, hey, can you give us some more creds, they would probably help out.
Yeah, you should be able like to set your own API key. So, or do you do that? Do you have to set your own OpenAI key? Or
When you do the on-prem version, yes.
okay,
And they're doing, they have a vector database and all that. So like they're taking your code, but I don't think we set up our own vector database for the on-prem version. So I don't know if there's, and I talked to you about this, or I talked to Yura about this. I said, Yura, we need for local, we can't have people going to Pinecone spinning up a thing. It's got to be the local free stuff. Like SQLite has a vector database.
yeah,
So how do we make it use SQLite when it's local rather than having to use a third party service, right? So that's I think that's important for the open source community because if you're using Pinecone, that's not open source,
yeah,
right? So the local stuff's got to be like all open source, free to use. You don't have to go and sign up for third party services. You know, and we'll advertise that we use Pinecone and we're a customer and we love them and stuff. But when it comes to open source, we're not pushing any proprietary stuff.
yeah. We will need to see if like SQLite can do the same things as Pinecone.
Yeah, they have
Uh,
like a FAISS vector database thing. So the algorithms are similar for the matching, right? You do
yeah,
like product or cosine, whatever. So it has that. So I don't think you're going to see like different results. We're using the embeddings from OpenAI. So that you're still going to have OpenAI unless we find like some open source stuff that works this as well.
yeah,
So, but it's a given. You have to give us your OpenAI key, or you don't have to give it to us. You just need to put it into your environments file,
hmm,
and then don't share it with anybody. So, all right, let's get stand up going. Let me see if I can get some of our people's. 1 second. Oh, Parvez is going to join. Oh, yeah. Have you met Parvez? Have you talked to him on like huddles?
Sorry, what?
Have you met Parvez like on huddles, or
No, I
you know
don't
what he
think
looks
so.
like?
No.
So he recently quit his job. He was like quality guy in the lab. They was just treating him poorly. Like I said, if you get mad, you lose, especially if you're the manager. If you're the manager of somebody and you're like snapping because you're having a bad day on somebody, that's just like a toxic environment. That's more a reflection on the manager than it is the person. Um, I've had some bosses where they'll get like, I'm trying to think of, I don't remember off top. I have like one incident. It was a guy you would know from Teledoc, very high up there, very high up there. And he was getting pissed off. He was banging on the table, and I'm like, bro, this is not inspiring me to go work harder. You yelling
Yeah,
at he wasn't yelling at me. He was like in the room, kind of throwing a fit, being hot headed. And I'm like, the other guy that used to be in your position would never do this, right? Like he's always cool, calm, collected. I won't name names. Um, so let's see here. Let's at least get Parvez on here. Yura can't make it right now. So in terms of stuff, we have another blog up. The goal is to get high ranking on certain searches in Slack, providing useful links. All right, here's our intern, Parvez,
Hello.
Puppy, I
Hey,
call him.
Parvez.
How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. It's finally nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, Puppy, tell us about your previous work experience. We were just talking about you about. I was talking about like when you have a bad boss that loses his cool and like snaps
uh,
at someone. That's a reflection on them, not a reflection on the employee. I mean, you can have bad employees that like
yeah.
they always make the wrong decisions and stuff. But
Mhm.
if you're snapping at people, like you're not a good manager. Period.
Yeah.
You don't have emotional intelligence.
hmm Yeah, I agree because like I think that was like the hardest part for me is like I've never had like a job where a manager would be so aggressive towards me, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out like why. I thought I would have a little bit of like time to actually like learn what I was doing, but like it was kind of just like my second day, he called me downstairs. He's like, "Why aren't you finished with all your tasks yet?" I'm like,
Oh.
"Dude, it's only like my second day." Like, like I
Yeah.
don't know, because I guess the previous lab tech, she was able to do a lot of things really quickly, but she was there for like a couple years. So, and the workload was a lot different. It seemed like
You should be like, hey man, you want to show me? Like you're such a pro. You can do this in 2 days.
I did, and then he wouldn't. He would just kind of be like, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine." Like he would just kind of like brush it off. So very weird experience for me for sure, but
Well, he lost his title, right? They stripped him of
yeah,
manager.
yeah, yeah. So now
So
he
at
just kind of
least
sits in his
upper
office all
management,
day. Yeah,
at least upper management was like, okay, this guy is not really fit
yeah,
to be a manager.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you have to have a lot of patience as a manager. Uh, and when I was getting into management at InTouch and Teladoc, I always had like, oh, we're gonna have this person come in. Sometimes it happens. Someone come in immediately, just like start crushing it, and you're like, damn,
hmm
okay, all right, homie,
hmm
all right. But like, not everybody's gonna just ramp up super quick and start contributing right away. So
hmm
um, people take time to ramp, especially like depending on what they're working on. Some stuff is very complicated and takes a while to understand. And first,
hmm
I hired a lot of junior people, like just out of college, right? And so you have to have patience.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it
that makes
depends
sense.
on the project. If the project is like too big, it's going to take you some time to get to know it and know how to change things. So yeah.
Alice, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. How's sweep?
Um, so I set it up, but it actually doesn't seem to be working.
Mhm.
It receives a request and then it adds the little eyeball emoji and it makes a comment and say, "Okay, we're looking into this. Step one. Here's a percentage bar," and then it stops.
So the weird thing is that the communication's working. At least one way it's working, right? From both ways actually, from GitHub to your sweep install, and then it's also able to post back.
Yeah,
So it's talking. So I don't know what could be
yeah.
busted.
I'm not sure, so that's what I'm looking into now.
Okay.
Um, I have in the email with Sweep, and they were trying to reproduce the problem, but I don't know if they were successful.
Yeah, I joined their Discord. You might get faster. Just join the Discord and then you get faster responses.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, puppy. What are you up to?
Just currently doing some CS50 right now,
Nice.
and then what is it? I have like I bought like a Python book a while back, so I'm kind of just sifting through that. And then I'm gonna text Jagraj today because his finals today. So after that, I'll probably ask him like if he's gonna check the README out. But other than that, I'm probably gonna try to mess around with Haley today more because I finally got like to work in standalone mode.
Nice.
hmm
Um, Great. And eventually I want to show you sweep where you can like tell like maybe you started as a starting point because we were talking about like, hey, for kind of a tryout project, the image
Yeah.
and stuff, right? Like if that
Yeah.
doesn't make it into back into the code, it's not a problem. You know, it wasn't
Mhm.
something that we're like, this is gonna sell like hotcakes. Cool
Yeah.
feature, right? I think I would like to be able to generate memes or something. It'll probably be
Yeah.
really bad memes, like we all fucked up, but we can get you started. I can show you how to do it in Sweep, where you give it like you give it the requirements,
Mhm.
and then you look at the code, you know, and then you can be like, oh, okay, this file is doing that, this file is doing this, and this
Okay.
is where the code. So it's kind of it'll be your assistant to coding, right? And then
Okay. Yeah.
learning the repo also. So it's pretty easy to use. Now I might not get it right the first time, so we were actually me and Fede were talking about this. How you're the copy paste monkey. You make it do the thing. You know, you run it locally. You say, "Oh, that didn't work," and then you explain the results back, and then it goes, "Okay, let me see if I can." And then you just keep iterating until it comes to what you want it to be. So I think that will be kind of a new way for people to learn about a particular project, right? Like, where are the files I need to change? What are the methods that would have to get updated? And that's more interactive and you have someone to help you, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
I know when you've been just doing your initial development work, you've been leveraging Haley as much as possible, right? You have a
Yeah.
blog about how much Haley's been there by your side. Now,
Hmm.
ideally, you know, as your mentor at the company and stuff, I'd be like, but Haley's better. So, you know, like I'm not gonna give you second tier mentorship when Haley can mentor
Yeah.
you even better than I can.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think what I learned about using Haley, even though like I didn't have much experience, is like you still really have to be specific in like what you ask her, because
Mhm.
she can give you like this solution, but if you don't really understand that solution or how to apply it, then like you kind of just don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So like through her, I've been learning a lot more about like how to like go through the command prompt and where to add certain files. Like that .env file, I had such a hard time figuring out like where to place it
Mhm.
because like I didn't have like the GitHub thing when I first started. I just had that initial post that I think that I made on the um on the API website, I think, where it was just like that little like this is how you set up your like environmental variables and stuff. And then like once I actually got like the README, then I was like, oh okay, this kind of makes more sense.
Yeah. So, you know, we have you're in the beta testers channel, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have our beta testers if they have enough development chops, right? Like, or if they even want to learn it, like they want to learn about Git and GitHub and repo and be able to
Hmm.
modify code, or not even modify code, but just run the stuff locally. We can see about having them go through the README as well for
Hmm.
feedback. So with our first beta tester that's kind of jumped into it, she's actually based out of France, so she's on the France timetable. You know, she didn't know about Slack. You know, she's just trying to get
Oh, okay.
into QAing, so she's and she's pretty damn quick. Like she's got Slack going, and then was able to go through our testing instructions and start providing feedback. Like right away, she's like, hey, I'm trying to like add this app and is asking first and foremost, it's not approved by Slack. What the hell? Like, I know. We submitted and they're like, you need to have like 50 million people try out your app before we approve it. And we missed it by like a month where that would have not been the case. But that's fine. We'll get the feedback that we need. And then she was like, oh, look, now you're asking for like this important information to share with my Slack. Like maybe some people don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to have to because we can't, we don't know your email. You don't know who you are. We need to get, if you really care about that, then you should just do the local version, right? You should do the GitHub version if you don't want to share any information with us. Even though we promise we're never going to sell your information or share it and that sort of thing, we'll protect it with our lives. All right, and so did another blog today on search for Slack and channels. So that's live and that's in our blog channel. Been messing around with sleep this morning, and let's see other stuff that I have going on. Where's my to-do list? I got a bunch of HOA stuff I got to do. Being the president and all, thankless job. One thing I want to talk to you guys about was, so I tried out this other app that we have installed in our repo. I'm on the Slack community, so I'm just trying to, like, if I can help other people, maybe eventually they'll come around and help. But if not, that's fine too. Because we need our stuff has to be like drawing enough where they're like, yeah, I have that problem, right? Actually, I'll try out your app and I'll be a beta tester or whatever. So if they're not even like, regular search in Slack is fine for me, I don't need your stuff, then like I'd be wasting my time because I'm not finding someone that really has that problem. So I'm trying to help these people that put in the app showcase in the community channel of Slack, and I'm trying out their apps. And even offering like, hey, if I'll beta test you guys if you want to beta test me. And so I tried out this one app, and they're very heavy on like slash commands. And I was like, man, this is just not as good as if you just tagged at Haley. So the problem that we have is if we try to make everything just the at Haley command, first it goes public in the channel that they're at, right? So if you're trying to do something like do a search without anybody knowing, then it's going to show up for everybody that sees that you don't know what project X is, and you might be embarrassed, especially like lower level folks that are new. They don't want to embarrass themselves, right? You guys in the beginning, you're like, oh, I gotta be really careful because I'm trying to build my reputation and I don't want everybody to think I'm stupid. I don't want to ask questions, which is actually the wrong thinking. But that's how the people are hesitant. So how can we do like at Haley commands, and then it can figure out with very low overhead. I know this is Fede, your biggest concern is if we got to do a OpenAI call or a GPT 3.5 turbo, whatever call to figure out what kind of prompt they're asking, then that's overhead. That could be like sometimes.
Yeah, that's already 3 seconds at least.
At least. Sometimes you see like for a simple hello, 30 seconds, or because there's stuff. And that's another thing. It's like we need to start thinking about backup LLMs to call. Like maybe in parallel, you also call Cloud or whoever, Bard or whatever, to get something that comes back faster. So I was thinking like, okay, what if you do like the first word? And I think this is actually not a great idea, but it's something to start with. At Haley search, and then you see the word search, and then you're like, okay, this is a search command. Do the search stuff. How can we do something where even if I don't even ask, say, search, that it can go and say like, okay, you're asking about your organization. I'm going to do the smart search for you, as opposed to going and just answering like if I asked about Project Phoenix, and then they'd be like, Project Phoenix is a book written by such and such, but in actuality, you're asking about Project Phoenix for your organization. So how do we do it where it's low overhead? Because what I'm pushing for is ease of use, and I want natural language with everything.
With that is if you mention Haley, the message will be public, so your question will be seen by everyone.
Yeah.
There's no way to hide that.
There's no way to hide an at command, right?
Even on Discord, I know it's like different, but like if you wanted to like at like a bot, like a music bot, it'll tell everybody, oh, like this bot is playing this song in this channel. So it'll just like announce it to everybody.
So I like pushing people to do things in public, like what we're doing now. We're broadcasting our stuff, right? Like this is what we do, which adds to the knowledge base for everybody. So because someone else might have had the same question, but they didn't ask and they're afraid. So it's like someone asked. So I almost want to like nudge people to do public stuff. But if you really don't want to talk in public, you can just do a private DM to Haley, right? So I don't like slash commands. Like it's something you have to learn how to do, and then the arguments is like command line. It's overhead for you have to learn something as opposed to like I can just do straight English. So Fede, I challenge you and you, Bubby and Alice, like what's a low overhead way of doing this? You know, I can think of ways like of doing things in parallel. You fire off this and you fire off at the same time, and then you get at the end you get the result, and then you can look at it like what's the better. I should be doing a smart search versus that. So just think about it. Like what's the way that we can do it with low overhead? It's a challenge I put out there to you guys. So I sent over. So we're sponsoring the Dons of Santa Barbara High School. So this will be cool, and I'll go to one of the games because they announce like here are our sponsors for every game. They go through every sponsor and they say I want to thank the sponsors, and then our blurb is going to be. Let me see here. I had Haley do it. I'm like, Haley, what blurb do you want them saying about you? And she said, get expert help from Haley. You're the friendly chatbot. You're a go-to source for all your needs. I added in there your friendly chatbot for Slack, not just like a general thing. So we'll get that shout out at every home game of the Dons here. And this is also, we'll put it into our CSR, our corporate social responsibility. Like we're helping, because it's a nonprofit that we're donating this to. So we'll add that in there. The pretty much second most popular page that we have from some of the analytics that we see is our CSR. Like people care. Like, what are you doing for the community? So Fede, did you ever get to work on your girlfriend's thing with? I know you guys were doing like.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, I did the website, but I have like a first thing, but they never like came back to me with what they really want, so it's on hold for now.
Do you have well, what we can do is we could just do they have like social media?
I think they do, but yeah, what do you want to do? I don't know. Our relation is not that official yet.
Okay. All right. When it gets there, we'll add it to the CSR. That we're also. And I think you're helping fight one of the worst things that are happening in the world right now. So that one would go up there on the top. Even before feeding the kids, you got to make sure that they're living a normal life, right? So I think they'll be at the top of the list. And then we'll also, maybe at the bottom, we'll add that we sponsor a local baseball team and helping kids be student athletes and students first and all that sort of stuff. All right. And I think, and then I also did this thing where I had my Raj at Haley email, talk to the Haley at Haley email, and then they just had this really cordial back and forth. When it's stuck in an infinite loop because they always have to have the last word, right? So we have two.
No, you hang up. No, you.
Yeah, no, you hang up. It's like it was like a back and forth. Oh, thank you so much. No, thank you. No, thank you. And just like, all right, I turned off the zaps so I could stop getting charged for OpenAI making easy money off of me. But there's definitely like things I can tweak about the prompts that I have there because it'll just like say things unannounced, like straight up. I say if they bring up investment or some other stuff, like just politely decline. But it'll say it in your face, hey, I'm not looking for investment. So, take a long walk on a short pier. And I'm like, okay. The other thing I'm doing is I'm watching, I linked this in our Slack, which is the YC Combinator Slack startup school. So kind of just going over that. And that's where I was pinging you, Fede, about like a referral program. Like, does it make sense for us to do a referral program? Like, tell your friends, you get a month free of Haley or something like that. maybe later on, but I think with our affiliate program and stuff, I think we're fine for now. But I'm watching that stuff, and I was talking about a lot of it. I think I've gone through this course before. I just don't remember. Uh, Stuff like, are you measuring a churn? Are you measuring monthly active users? And so, uh, is our stuff now good with activity count?
I didn't check, but yeah, we probably need a few days to see if that was fixed. But yeah, should be fixed.
So yeah, based off of that, I'll use it to build out our stuff. And anything else on your guys' side?
No, I pushed the change to master to detect the amount of users on the Slack workspace for when we do the subscription.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna test that.
But now I need to find a way like to update it before the next like billing. And there's no way to manually send like a Stripe event to my webhook. So yeah, I need to figure out how to do that.
All right. How about you, Puppy? Anything?
In like just regards to
Anything, whatever you want to talk about.
so just now using all my time to really get into this. So
Well, hopefully, you're an unpaid intern, so hopefully you're getting as much learning as possible out of this.
No, I feel like this is probably like the best way to, I guess, push me into it because like I was kind of just feeling really like overwhelmed by just even like beginning, coding because there's just so much information and jumping from like public health to this is like completely different.
Mhm.
So like just starting this, like yeah, it was challenging, but like I kind of just breaking it down and it's just a lot better. And I feel like since I'm doing this, I'm learning a lot more too about just how everything works, and it's a lot more fun, I would say, doing it this way.
So I think I have a doc for image gen. Okay.
Hmm.
You have that. I think I shared it with you, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Uh, or you can also go to your drive.google.com for your Mortem account and just search
Oh,
for
it'll be in there.
image gen. You should be able to find it.
Okay. Okay.
So what I would like for you to do, because now you have local dev, right?
Hmm.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go into GitHub issues for the Slack repo. You're going to go, and you might run into problems where I don't think we have permissions for posting images and this other stuff, right? So you have to figure that stuff out too. But you would do it for your local
Okay.
chat bot that you have, whatever you call it, right? Haley Parvez. Create the sweep issue, detail everything you want it to do, let it do the code, pull that branch, check out that
Oh,
branch,
okay.
pull that code, and then test it. And then
Test it.
detailed response back in a comment saying, hey, these are the issues, or hey, it worked like a charm, right? So
Hmm.
um,
Just like mess around with it, basically.
mess around with it and then have
Yeah.
that back and forth where it's kind of coding it for you. And then if you can figure out what's wrong, great. You tell it like, hey, I figured out that you're doing this wrong. Otherwise, you let it just do its thing. And
Okay.
then, but you need like look at the code, read the code, see where it made the changes. Then you understand the repo better.
Okay.
We don't have much code, right? Like our that repo is not that much.
Yeah, it's a little small bit, so it's easy. It's easy to read and follow.
Yeah.
That's why I was able to track Fede's changes real quick. Like when he updated it, I was like, oh, this is like what he changed, and like they helped me set up like Haley after because I know I had like a lot of issues just like running into like Flask not being imported or the environmental variable just being really weird. But I think now like it's running pretty good. I still need to try the front end and the back end. I don't know if you guys updated that. But
The
yeah,
front end what?
front end and back end for the website.
Oh, I don't think you ever need to go there.
Oh, really? Okay.
You're just gonna be in Slack bot repo using the
Okay.
open source stuff.
Okay.
So make sure you take, at the end of the day, after you take all your notes, create a blog out of those notes,
Okay.
post it, and just kind of have like this online journal about your
My journey.
progression as a software developer.
Mhm.
using AI to make you go faster than someone else that's just like, looking at tutorials all day.
Yeah, because I feel like that's what really like helps a lot is like I'm learning it, and then if I do get stuck, I could just ask Haley, and then she can like specify it to me too. And then obviously I'm taking CS50, so I have like a professor like telling me like, oh, this is what string means, this is what a float is, this is what booleans are, this is how you properly indent. So like it helps a lot. And I think
Yep.
PyCharm also like I think it already has the indentation feature in there, so shouldn't be too bad.
Are you taking your ruler out and measuring space?
No, that was so annoying. Like setting up like the back end and front end, I keep getting that weird error. And I was like, I keep looking at Haley, and it's like literally the same indentation. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why can't I figure this out? But it's probably because I probably changed some of the code even before, so it's probably like a whole like maybe chain is probably messed up on my like locally. So that's probably why I'm getting that error. This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sometimes, especially if you're not doing you didn't do massive changes, it's just best to start off fresh.
Yeah.
You start over, and then you pretty much, you keep your previous code. Maybe you add it in a little bit by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is never do like big bangs, meaning you did this big feature and then you do this incremental small stuff and you test along the way. That's going to be making it much faster than if you just said this big feature, tested it, and you're like, oh crap, I don't know where to look. So smaller deltas is better than big deltas.
Yeah, I think that's what I like kind of figured out. So I'm gonna start doing that. So thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, thanks y'all, and have a good weekend.
You too. Take care,
guys. You too.
Bye, guys.